Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's fantastic to be back after a much needed break last month. I want to give a massive thank you to all the new subscribers who have joined and to everyone who's continued to like, share and comment on the content. You're the engine of this community. But the break is over and we have to dive straight back into the crisis of the UK economy. My goodness, so much has happened in the last month, so let's get straight on with it. The title of today's video is Why Gary Stevenson is Right About Labour's Failure, and I want to start by giving some personal context that makes this whole topic feel urgent. Until very recently, I was an active member of the Labour Party. In fact, I was vice chair of the area. However, after watching the political direction and frankly the empty rhetoric from the current leadership, I have reluctantly resigned. The party has become a neoliberal party in all but name, and its inability to acknowledge and tackle the central economic issue of our time proves Gary Stevenson's thesis completely right. The scene is set for Rachel Reeves' budget on November the 26th. The media narrative is already in place. The Chancellor will have to make difficult decisions to deal with a supposed 40 to 50 billion pound black hole in our public finances. The message is clear: austerity must return and we all have to tighten our belts. But as Gary Stevenson and Richard Murphy make clear, this is a manufactured crisis used to justify a political choice rooted in the Thatcherite neoliberal myth that a government must run its finances like a household budget. Gary Stevenson argues that Rachel Reeves actually faces a very simple choice. She can either impose tax hikes on the working and middle class to service this supposed deficit, or she can finally choose to tax the wealthiest in our society. Stevenson highlights that Labour's failure comes down to a fundamental intellectual failing that is rooted in the bubble theory. Those in elite spaces, including politicians, academics and journalists, are so rich, insulated and financially comfortable that they simply do not have a good understanding of or connection to life for ordinary people. Their wealth is increasing while everyone else's living standards are falling due to decades of growing wealth inequality. Stevenson's point is that because she lives in this elite bubble, she is structurally incapable of seeing the right solution. She will inevitably choose to protect her wealthy donors and connections rather than make them pay their fair share. Economist Richard Murphy takes the argument one step further, calling Labour's approach a form of economic self-harm dressed up as responsibility, because raising taxes on ordinary people now kills economic demand. The only people who should be taxed more are the idle wealthy, who hoard cash and assets. Crucially, Murphy completely dismisses the household budget myth, stating that 40 to 50 billion pound black hole doesn't even need to be plugged with tax rises on the public. And if money were truly needed immediately, there is an obvious and ethical alternative being ignored to protect the wealthy. The government could simply choose to stop paying the exorbitant interest on its debt to private banks. The great irony here is that while Labour is determined to prove itself fiscally conservative by embracing this neoliberal lie, it is leaving a huge gap for parties that do offer real hope. The meteoric rise in membership of the Green Party, particularly since the election of Zach Polanski, is a massive signal that people are looking for a party that will communicate hope clearly, rather than the same old austerity threats. Polanski, who's appeared with Richard Murphy to discuss these very issues, is tapping into the exact disillusionment that Labour has caused by clinging to the old failed economic orthodoxy. The public knows that the Thatcherite household budget myth is unnecessary and actively harmful, and they are moving to the only party offering a genuinely different economic path. It really makes you think about where a disillusioned ex-Labour member might find their new political home, doesn't it? When we put this together, the failure of the Labour Party becomes painfully clear. As Gary Stevenson suggests, they are stuck in a bubble and refuse to look seriously at the problem of wealth inequality. They are committed to a false narrative, the 40 to 50 billion pound black hole, to justify neoliberal austerity that will further crush demand and harm the economy, just as Richard Murphy warns. By ignoring the option to tax the wealthiest and by avoiding radical but simple solutions like ending excessive payments to banks, Rachel Reeves is validating the very critique that Gary Stevenson has been making for years. This is not a party of change. It's a party that, through its adherence to the elite status quo, is failing the public and creating a vacuum for political alternatives. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Will Rachel Reeves surprise us on November the 26th? Or is she a guaranteed neoliberal disappointment? And is a move to a smaller, more principled party the only logical step for those truly seeking economic justice? Don't forget to like and share this video, and I'll see you in the next one.